Pilots, we are on lesson 7, and our objective this week is optimize. The last 2 weeks have been spent in the rack brain phase, and you guys have done an amazing job at hashing out some great ideas. The biggest problem we've encountered is what route are we going to take? And last week we spent time brainstorming, racking our brain around a couple of options. And this is route 1, where it's taking a path through the canyon. This is route 2, crossing over one of the mountains and then dropping down into the canyon. And finally, there's route 3 that starts at the base of the mountain that is directly opposite where our hikers are. And I might choose this path because how short the distance is. And considering what we have to carry with our drone, elevation, and so on, our battery time is not going to be optimal. So I would probably choose this if we had a really experienced drone operator. And another thing which I'll explain later in the lesson is visibility and being able to see the drone. We have a better line of sight is what it's called. So we can see the drone, we can have someone watch for it on the other side when it comes across. So less folks are impacted by a drone flying over them. There were also great ideas on where to put the anti-venom on the drone to fly it over to our hikers. So the next phase is optimize. That is part of our engineering design process, and this is where we do the plan. We come up with our mission plan. How is this going to happen? I love this quote: if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. So how do we develop a plan? One very good starting point is to look at our pre-flight 10-point checklist. You have this in your mission portfolio, and it gives you some key items that has to be done before every mission. So I'm going to talk you through all of the points on this checklist so that you understand what it is. And the first 2 have to do with the drone itself. You're going to check to make sure that it is damage-free. Okay, you're looking for any nicks and cuts and scratches or cracks. You want to check your propellers. Obviously, make sure they're secure and make sure nothing's bent or cracked or anything that's going to affect its flight. And I just want to point out this little red asterisk here is a reminder for some of these checkpoints. They are very important because you will have to check them again just before takeoff. Okay, doesn't matter, you've already checked it and you know. You're going to do a double check. Okay, these are critical, and for the propellers to be secure is absolutely critical. Okay, and that's a very quick check that you check all 4, make sure they're firm in place. So the next checkpoint is something called Before You Fly. It's an app that's put out by the FAA, and it tells you if there are any flight restrictions in your area. It will pick up airports and any other kinds of flight restrictions so that you know whether or not it's safe to fly. Weather conditions, obviously, we've talked about that and how it impacts our flight, and you've been watching the weather, so that's definitely an assignment and part of your plan. And it has a red asterisk because this is something you're going to double check just before takeoff. You want to make sure that winds haven't kicked up somewhere, there's not some weather condition that you did not anticipate. Very important. So this one, batteries charged, seems like a no-brainer. And of course, you're going to charge your batteries You also want to see how old your batteries are, and there's a way to check that to make sure all the cells within the battery itself are fully charged, because otherwise it's not going to last as long as it needs to. This also has a red asterisk. You want to double check just before takeoff, make sure something funky hasn't happened. And it's very easy to check because in your remote control for your drone, you have a reading for the battery, and it will tell you exactly what's going on. So the next checkpoint, someone has to make sure that the remote and the drone have been calibrated, meaning that they have been checked for accuracy. And there is a system in the remote that helps you do that. And you go through the steps to make sure that both of the instruments are checking with GPS and reading everything accurately. Otherwise, your drone's going to go wherever it wants to, and that is not good. So in this step, you have to make sure that you and the team know exactly where you're going to take off and that it has been marked off so no one is walking through there, and where you're going to land and what the exact route is. This one is Flight Mission Reviewed. Are you FAA compliant? So that's actually two things in one. So what is the mission? Everybody knows exactly what the mission is. You know where you're flying from point A to point B, what it is, how high, all of these things, what time you're going to take off. Have you checked on any waivers that you might need, because you may have to fly over people. And as search and rescue team, you do have a lot of allowances because of the work that you do, but you still have to be as safe as possible. So these are some tasks in your mission to make sure everyone is on the same page. So when you're on this kind of mission, you have to pick someone who's going to be in the role of flight safety observer. It can be someone on the team, it can be anyone actually, but you have to explain to them what they're doing. They're watching the skies for you, okay? And they're also watching the drone. So that the drone operator, who is very focused on flying the drone exactly where it needs to go, they may not notice there's a flock of birds coming, or there's a helicopter, or there's something going on. That's the job of the flight safety observer. Now, the satellite count has to do with your drone and the remote reading the GPS information, and they do it using satellite information. And you want to have at least 10 satellites sending information to the drone. If it's only one and you lose connection for whatever reason, then you're in trouble. So you want at least 10, and it's very easy to see how many there are because that's information that's in the remote control. So our homework assignments this week for the CYU 7, the questions are about the different tasks that you saw in that checklist. And for our discussion, I have a video about when the planning did not happen and what happens when we do not optimize. So think about all of the checklist points and how we would be organized with our team to make sure everyone knows who is going to do what, when exactly it's going to happen. And this is something that we would write out on a chart, and everybody can have that same piece of paper so we know exactly what we're doing and there won't be any mistakes.